500 subscribers? Holy cow. I really cannot thank you all enough. I could seriously go on and on. And kicking things off, we have a Topps card with a cut and double crimp error. Now this is the first time that I have seen an error like this where you see both sides are crimped. Very unique. What we've seen in the past is when a smaller portion of the card gets cut off like this, that actually ends up in a different pack, and typically those packs can end up in the same booster box, and so that's how people are able to kind of connect these pieces together. But yeah, what a unique error, and just very cool. They did my boy Seymour wrong here. He was already pretty goofy looking, but now with that cut going through his face, it's just even worse. And this card had 17 bidders this week. The winning bid was $25.55. Average non-error price is $1.85. And that gives us a 1,281% error value increase. And that is good enough for number 9 this week on our list of error value increases. I guess I should do some sort of introduction rather than just a cinematic shot and then also a thank you. So if you don't know me, my name is Matt. I believe I run the most comprehensive video series on the internet of error Pokemon cards, or just Pokemon cards in general. I don't see people diving in this deep on Pokemon cards. Definitely for the nerds, for the Pokemon card lovers, for the error lovers, just everyone. We are on week 26, and I'm not stopping anytime soon, so I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Next up, we have a CGC 8 Mew promo card, the Black Star promo, and this has an additional ink error. Look at how that pink ink is just sprayed across the card there on the left. That is so unique. I have not seen an error like this before. And boy, it looks like they got this for a great price, $62.52. Kind of hard to price a card like this, but usually when you have that much additional ink spread over that much of the card, you think it would sell for a lot more, so I would say the buyer got a good deal this week. And the EVI was 270%. Okay, next up here, we have a really cool one. Here we have a Magmar from Pokemon 151, and this is a missing print layer error. Sometimes I wish you could just see a video for these cards, you know, like if you could compare them side by side on video, I think that would just look better. Oh, would you look at that? We have a video right here. So you can see there's definitely the card on the right is definitely quite a bit lighter than the card on the left. It does look like this is kind of all throughout the whole card, so that's why I say this is a missing print layer and not a low ink error. Low ink errors usually tend to be more regional, not the whole card. And if you haven't picked it up yet, I was the only bidder on this card. I got it for $7. My thought process, I've seen a couple of these missing print layer 151 cards go for between $60 to $120, and so I thought picking it up for $7 would be an absolute steal. So I don't really know what I'm going to do with it yet. I might list it, might keep it, might grade it. Don't really know. If you think you have a strong preference on this, why don't you let me know in the comments. It's pretty apparent that you know, it is quite a bit lighter, and overall I do think I got this for a good deal. You know, EVI is 299%. I think that could be a lot higher if this was listed for a set price, and just wait for the right buyer to come across. So happy with this card, and let's go on to the next one. Next up, we have a Hitmonlee from Fossil set, and this one has that fat bottom. Good lord, look at that. This actually has another portion of a card on the bottom there. We see an alignment dot on the bottom right. We do not see an alignment dot on the back of the card, but boy, this is one of the more severely miscut cards you will see from Wizards of the Coast era. And to go along with this being severely miscut, this got a CGC 9. This is a very impressive card. It's damn near perfect, besides for that, well, they gave it an off-center error. Oh, that's weird. I don't agree with that. Either way, this had 18 bidders this week and sold for $365. I do think that is a little low for what this card could have gone for, especially the high grade and also just the severity of the miscut. But either way, that is a lot of money for a Pokemon card, so awesome sale. Okay, I do not have kids yet, but I imagine the feeling, the pride that you see when your kid does something for the first time. Oddly enough, that is what I feel when I see this spread of information on the screen. So I got a useful comment from a user. I'll put it on the screen here, and they asked me to increase the size of the error price list, or the non-error price list. So basically the ones that show the price per grade. And I spent probably 3 or 4 hours trying to come up with a new system just to like make sure all the information is displayed properly so you can view it on a small screen or a big screen. And this is what I came up with, and you can see there's plenty of space to show the back of the card or additional card information above that pricing information too. And being able to compare the error price with the non-error price per grade all the way down, that just makes a nerd like me absolutely salivate. I love it. So here we have a base set War Turtle with the Evolution Box error. If you don't know what that is, you take the big War Turtle and you shrink it down and you put it in the stage 1 where Squirtle should be. These cards typically sell for a lot of money due to the rarity of them, and this was listed for $140, sold for just that amount, and average non-error price is $2.37. That gives the EVI 5,807%. And that is good enough for number 4 this week on their list of EVI. Oh yeah, I should say too, so you can see average error price for this is $86. So you think maybe the buyer overpaid for this, but look at the quality of the card. You can see above me here, it looks pretty darn perfect. So I could see it definitely getting at least a grade 8, maybe a grade 9, maybe higher. You know, I'm not a grading expert, but I could definitely see this going for a lot more than they paid for, and so I think this was a good investment. Next up, we have a Trevenant VMAX with a crazy miscut. This is one that you really don't see too often. So you can see the front and the back of the card on the right side of the screen there. Boy, so you have 1 rounded corner and 3 square corners in the alignment dot, and about 60% of the card is missing. That's incredible, and if I could give my 2 cents on this, I think this really was sold for less than it should have, especially with average non-error price being $6.50 for a VMAX. I could see this going for maybe 3 figures even. It's a very, very unique card. You know, only 4 bidders. I think that does show that this did not get spread out to enough viewers, enough eyes on it. I think this could have sold for a lot more. But either way, this is one of the most unique Pokemon cards you will see, and it's just awesome. So an awesome sale this week. So happy to talk about it. Also, props to the seller. Look above me. They put in the description, missing in the forest, more like missing the rest of the card. I absolutely love puns. I love stupid jokes like that. So that's just a great touch to put in the description of the listing. Next up, here we have a first edition Raichu from Fossil Set. Got graded a PSA 9, and this is a mirror holo error. So this can be called also a no star holo. I've seen a matte holo. Basically, all the little sparklies there are missing, so it's just a complete mirror finish on the hollow portion of the card. You can see EVI is 944%. That's actually not in the top 10, but it was very close. And $1,600 for a Pokemon card. You can see in the eBay listing, this is a Pop 4, so population 4, so there's only 4 cards graded like this that have this error with these exact card specifications. And yeah, $1,600 for a Pokemon card. That is incredible. Hey you. I want to know about the error Pokemon cards you've bought recently, but I want them to be ones that you got for a great deal, or the ones where people didn't know they were an error when you bought them. Yeah, I want to do a weekly segment where I share the community's cards that they have found and get to talk about them a little bit and kind of give people some credit. So check the description to see how you can get the error Pokemon card information to me so I can share it in next week's episode. Thank you. Ooh, next up we have an Ancient Mew promo card that is sealed. You can see it has kind of 2 cards in that pack there, and this is a pretty severe miscut, especially for these promo cards. You don't see this too often. It's pretty cool. Boy, has a fat bottom, and it sold for $150. I'm not sure much more we can say about it. Next up we have a Lombre from Evolving Skies, and this is a cut and crimp error. Boy, Lombre is missing about 40% of the bottom there. That's pretty insane. Looks like a pretty clean cut, a little bit of a diagonal to it, and this got graded a CGC 6.5. This is pretty cool. As I said just a little bit before, you might be able to find the other card of this in a different pack. Maybe they got this just as a single pack or something, but the bottom might be out there, so maybe one day these 2 can be reunited again. That's a pretty severe crimp indentation as well. That's nice to see. Non-error price, there was no information. I don't know if just no one ever got this card graded or what. So I guessed average for a 6.5, $6. I think that sounds about right for a modern Pokemon card like this. It doesn't seem too special, and so with that in mind, that gives the error value increase 983%. And that's good enough for number 10 this week on their list of EVI. Next up, we have a Pokemon Center Lady Trainer card, or as I know her as Joy. These modern kids, I don't know what they're doing. I know it's not their fault, it's Pokemon, but her name has always been Joy in my eyes. And this is a severe miscut. Top of the card, there is another portion of a card. Looks like 2 alignment dots on the front of the card on the top. And I think we have 2 on the back, 2 on the top. They're very light though. Looks like not much movement left to right for the miscut. It's just kind of more up and down. Typically sells for $1.19. This one went for $30 as best accepted offer price. And that gives an EVI of 2,421%.
And that is good enough for number 8 this week.
Next up, we have a CGC 8.5 Tangela from Steam Siege, and all 4 corners are square. And I do not believe this was not factory cut. I believe this is legit from the factory, got placed in the Pokemon card pack. Someone pulled it and sold it for $25. There's 2 different stages that occur. So the first one cuts it into the square Pokemon card that you see on the right here, and then the second cut goes through and rounds the corners, and that's what you get on the non-error card here. So something happened. I don't know if the cutting machine just took half the day off or something, didn't cut the rest of the cards, but that has left us with 4 corners, square cut error. And boy, they listed it for $50, had the best accepted offer price at $25. I think it could have went for more, but who am I to say? Maybe this card really isn't that sought after in the community, who knows? But yeah, for an error this crazy, it's kind of weird to see an EVI of only 63%. Next up, here is one of several modern Pokemon cards that I know of that has a repeating error this large. So here we have a Magikarp from Scarlet and Violet, and you can see it has a huge, they call it an ink splash error. I think that's a great way to describe it. It's not just an ink dot, it's not a printer hickey. That just kind of splashed on there and covers up the first part of Magikarp's name. As I said, this is a repeating error. I have not found a set value for this, but I have seen others show up in for sale before. Typically goes for $1.01 for the non-error version. This one sold for $40. That gives an EVI of 3,859%. And that's good enough for number 6 this week on their list of EVI. Next up, we have a PSA 9 D error first edition Butterfree from Jungle Set. That was a lot that I just said there. So here, if you look above me, there's a good, very clean image of the error that happened. So basically there was a printer hickey that got perfectly placed next to the 1 there, and it made it look like a D. And this is a repeating error. Actually, typically it doesn't sell for too much. And look how confusing the pricing is. So it was listed for 95 Great British Pounds. And then on the website that I look on to find the actual pricing, it says it wasn't $125.43, it was 75 Great British Pounds, which I then have to convert again, which gives us $99.41 for a PSA 9 D error Butterfree. And we actually have error prices for this. So it looks like regular, or PSA 9 usually goes for around $70. So this actually looks like the market's shifting up a little bit, I would say. Either that or the person just got confused by Great British Pounds conversions, who knows, but yeah, EVI of 161%, so nothing crazy, but I think that's about on par for the rarity of this card. Next up, we have a Dark Dragonite from Team Rocket Set, the non-holo error. So 582 was reserved for the holo card, but you can see this is a non-holo, and that's what the error is. Non-error card says 2282, and this card's not in good shape. Front is definitely quite a bit of nicks on there, and I see I didn't put the back of the card, but just trust me, that was not in good shape either. And so for this to sell for $365.11 for a card in this type of shape and a non-holo, that's pretty cool. $365 for that. You can see it typically goes for around $8.50. I would imagine that is a more pristine card for the non-error version. So I imagine if we were able to factor in the card quality here, this EVI would be even crazier. But despite all of that, the error value increase is 4,195%. And that's good enough for number 5 this week on our list of EVI. Also, they have first edition Dark Dragonite non-holo error prices on price charting for the error card, but they do not have it for the standard card, so I was not able to pull up any data for that. Alright, next up we have another Evolution Box War Turtle. This got graded the Beckett 8.5, so some would even see that as more like a PSA 9, just with how strict Beckett is grading. And this card had one bidder, and they got for $185. I think that's an absolute steal, and I have the facts to prove it. So look under error price and non-error price, so you can compare them right there, and you can see a PSA 9 usually goes for $400. So the buyer got over a 50% discount on this card. My advice to the seller, I think, I know it's too late now, but just in the future, I think really do list it for a set price. You know, look up a little bit of comps online to see what other cards like this are selling for with similar grades. Or start the bidding at a higher price. Either way, you got $185 for a Pokemon card. You may have, you know, graded this yourself or got it for a good deal. So yeah, this is an awesome card, a high grade. I just think the buyer got a little bit better deal than the seller here. This one surprised me a little bit. I did not know that we had error pricing for a Black Flames Ninetale. So what this error is basically the flames around Ninetales are black. Pretty apparent, I would say, in the name. So typical grade 7 for a Black Flame error Ninetales goes for around $57. This one went for $150. That's a pretty steep price increase. I don't know if just like these cards really don't show up that often graded this high or what. I would say this seller did it right. They made a lot of money for this Pokemon card, well above the average price that it should have gone for. Yeah, I think this proves that I'm right, always. Hitmonlee? No, Stainmonlee. Next up, we have a first edition Hitmonlee from Fossil set with the Cigar Stain error. It's called the Ink Smear error here, but us OGs know it as the Cigar Stain. So there is a yellow streak that is going down the center of the card just about. And this is a repeating error, but it can range in severity. So some go all the way up to Hitmonlee's foot and all the way down to a high jump kick, and some just kind of go a little bit more in the middle. And just like some of these other errors from Fossil set, basically with each pass of the ink roller, this error got less and less severe. This card only had one bidder, but luckily the seller listed it for a lot of money. $511.49 for one bidder. That's a pretty darn good price for this card, I would say. Considering CGC 8.5 first edition, this is more of a severe error, I would say, and a cool repeating error. EVI is 539%, and let's get on to the next card. Next up, we have a Cacnea from Battle Styles, and this is a pretty severe miscut, I would say. And you can see this miscut actually kind of warped the shape of the card a little bit. So that's how severely miscut it was. You can see it has about 20% of another card on the left of it. We have 2 alignment dots on the bottom of the front and the back. And I think this could have sold for quite a bit more. So they listed this card for a set price, but I think they could have bumped it up quite a bit. I could see this going for maybe around $30 or $40 with this much of another card showing, and also it kind of being shifted that much. And you can see even on the back side of the card, the top right is pretty wonky there. Looks like a cut and then a swoop. So yeah, error value increase is still pretty solid, though 640%, but I do think this could have gone for $30 or $40 this week. So congrats to the buyer on this one, you got it for $8. Next up, we have an Azelf with a wonky miscut. So I'm going to show a video on the screen here. This reminds me of those like satisfying videos where they like have a square bouncing around, or I think the one I'm showing is where they make a square cut into a hole with a drill with a certain piece of machinery. Borders seem pretty normal, and then the inside of the card is just pretty darn wonky. This is a unique one. It's consistent on the front and back, and I don't know if we have an alignment dot because it is kind of perfectly centered cut. It's just one portion of the process got misaligned. This had 12 bidders. The winning bid was $27, and the EVI is 2,627%. And that's good enough for number 7 this week on our list of EVI. Okay, we'll see if this actually happens. Next up we have my friend Sam trying to guess this error. If you aren't familiar, you can play along with him. If you do know, why don't you watch him struggle, because I don't believe he knows this error.
Hello there, Matt. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to look at more Pokemon cards and maybe take a little bit less time doing it. And let's just hop right into it. Let's see. So we have a Beedrill this time. I feel like it's gonna be something. So this says put Beedrill on the stage 1 card. I guess maybe this is stage 2 and it starts at stage 0, so maybe that's fine. My guess is the error is right here. 30x. Oh no, at 30 times. Never mind. The coloring on Beedrill looks like a Beedrill. The background looks watery, but that's not necessarily a problem. Poison Sting. Oh, I found it. There's a period. Offending. The de-offending Pokemon. Alright, I found it. Time, end it, right there, full send.
All right, well, I hope he did it, because again, this would be a weird segment for me if he didn't. So here we have a base set Beedrill with a D.offending error. Under Poison Sting, there is a period there, and boy, this one always sells for a lot of money. This one is a rare Pokemon card. You can see even the condition of this card is not great at all. Above me is the back of the card. There's a lot of wear and tear on the card, on the edges, on the corners and everything. And despite all that, it sold for $250. I'm trying to think, in the 26 weeks I've been doing this, I've probably seen this show up 4 or 5 times for sale, so it really does not happen too often. Error value increase is a cool 8,233%, and that's actually number 2 this week on our list of EVI. Next up, we have a Galarian Slowking V with a wonky miscut. So with this one, looks like it was shifted this way, if you're looking the way I am. I'm not sure if that's the same for you. So yeah, more of another card on the bottom left than on the top left. And it's always cool to see these full arts or these V cards have a miscut error. It's just like, it always seems like it's a lot more interesting and unique than some of the other cards. Looks like we got a pair of alignment dots on the back, on the top and left right of the card. This card typically goes for $1.25. I guess I don't know Pokemon cards too much for modern cards, but that seems low for this, but maybe, you know, I bet that would be right. And this card sold for $87.95. That's a 6,936% error value increase. And that's good enough for number 3 this week. Ooh, here's an expensive one. Here's a PSA 9 Shining Gyarados with the double holo variant. So the way you can tell this one's a double holo, I think, is one of the more difficult. I think it's just darker and it has more holo on it. That's just like, that's all I can really say about that. Average non-error price is $777.93. So that's an expensive card by itself. But if you make this a double holo variant, you get it up to $1,800. This was a set listed price and someone paid it $1,800 for a Pokemon card, a PSA 9. Wow. I don't want to take away the thunder from this, but if we ever do see a PSA 10, that's going to be a crazy sale. I'm trying to remember if we have or not. I don't believe so, but if we ever do, that's going to be a very expensive Pokemon card. For the error value increases, I usually say between 100 and 200% is pretty standard for these double holo variants. If you've watched this show before, you'll know I had a very hard time passing up vintage miscuts. So here we have an Ekans from Team Rocket set with that fat bottom. We have an alignment dot on the bottom left corner. Back of the card isn't perfect, but I would say for the price, this definitely was a good deal. This sold for $9.01 and had a 621% error value increase. Stainmon No, just Hitmonlee with the mirror holo finish. But so it looks like PSA did not recognize this mirror holo error. I know they have done it before, so that's kind of odd. But yeah, so we have a mirror holo Hitmonlee first edition from Fossil set. And this one was listed for $500 but had a best accepted offer price of $400. It's a very high grade for this Pokemon card. That's awesome to see. Next up, we have a red dot error Gengar. This one got graded a PSA 10. That's pretty incredible. This card just showed up on my radar last week, and now here we have another one. You can see the red dot error is on the teeth of Gengar. Again, looks like he forgot to brush or something, needs to floss more. This one sold for 1,475 Australian dollars. Is that right? Is that how I say it? But in US dollars, that is $1,000.20. You can see error value increase really is not crazy, 11%. I believe the one last week actually had a lower value, so this one really doesn't add too much value, but it added almost $100 of value to this card, so that's actually pretty good. Okay, here we have the final card. This is a miscut sheet trim error. So what I assume happened is basically when they are, when all the Pokemon cards are cut off the uncut sheet, there is the leftover trim around the outside, and somehow that got into the cutting process, got cut into the shape of a Pokemon card with being very wonky. That's how you can see the rounded corner in the bottom left there, and then this got put into a pack. I have not seen this before. This is very unique. It's cool to see all the different colors for the aligning there, and just seeing a little bit of behind the scenes for how these cards are made. But obviously this card was not meant to get out into the wild here. was listed for $500 but had the best accepted offer price of $100. Obviously, we don't really have a card to compare this to, so I usually say for a standard Pokemon card, you know, a modern one, $1 is usually pretty good. So I just put $1 for this, and if you run the air value increase formula, that gives us a 9,900% air value increase. And that is good enough for number 1 this week. Alright, that is the end of the video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. As you can see, I read every single comment, I reply to every comment, and I take your feedback very seriously, and I will implement any changes if I think it could help make the videos better. Last week's video was like 40 minutes long. This one's shorter. What's an ideal length for this? I don't know. Sometimes I found myself rambling too much and having too much pause in my speech, so I tried to speed it up a little bit this week. We'll see what kind of sticks, and sometimes it just varies on how much time I have. So thank you for watching. I appreciate the hell out of you, and I'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.